for tonight.
So, welcome to a couple days of what you might call triangle mania. You will be triangle experts soon because there's a whole lot of triangles we'll be working on. So we're going to start off here on page 157. On page 157, you're probably going to want to do this not in one day, and I totally understand that. What I would ask you to do tonight with 157 is get some stuff started on 157. Maybe try to do like at least, I don't know, 3-ish triangles from each group. Knock out maybe a dozen triangles tonight, maybe more, depending on your life and your time that you have on hand. But there's 28 triangles to work on page 157 over time. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those 28 right now. Leaves you 23. Split that in half. Get at least a dozen done today. But if you do more today, God bless you. Tomorrow there's not really a lesson. Tomorrow's just, if you have questions, I'll answer them from the chapter. If you don't, it would just become like a work period, just to continue to work on your 28 triangles. 2 days out, I gave you a practice quiz paper. Starts with a picture, has a 3, a 4, and a 5 on it, I think. So that paper is due 2 days away. Not tomorrow, but the next day, which is Thursday by our reckoning at present. If you're feeling good after Thursday, like you've had your fill of triangle mania and you're ready to take a quiz, we would do a quiz on Friday. If you're feeling like you need a little bit more triangle mania, we could do another paper for Friday and then take a quiz next week, Monday. We'll sort of choose that when we get through tomorrow and Thursday. But 157, the other paper I gave you in the grid, those are the answers to 157. So instead of us coming around the room in future days and sharing 3 answers apiece on 28 triangles, I'm just giving you the answers up front. So you don't have to keep looking at the back, you don't have to wait for me to give them to you in class to confirm them. They're just there. So just work until those answers shall appear. Well, question about schedule? So 157, I'm just starting here with number 1. So number 1 is an SAS triangle. You'll have 6 of those total to do. I'll do the first one. So the little table organizes it so that the little a is a 3. Based on the way I drew my picture and made my commitments to A's, B's, and C's, that little a being a 3, where is that? Across from me. It is. So that's on the floor. Little b being a 4 is on the right, because that's the side across from B. Angle C, 7140, that's in the right. 7140. Let's just do triangle draw, and then I can set my book down and don't have to hold it. So we'll be back to that. 7 is an SSS, so they're giving us 3 sides. They say A is 8, that's the bottom. B is 9, that's the right. C is 7, so we ran out of sides there. I'll be back to that one. 13 is an ASA, meaning there's 2 angles and there's going to be the side that's included by them. The side C is 400.
The left.
Left. Angle A is 143 and some change.
The top angle.
Angle B is 8 degrees and some change. I'll be back. 17 is an AAS. That means they're giving you 2 angles again, but the side is not located on the included position, it's elsewhere. 17, side A is 6.
Bottom.
Angle A, 139 and some change.
The top angle.
Angle B, 38 and some change.
Bottom is left.
I think it's 64 and some change.
What's that? Yeah, I did some of 17 and some of 18, my bad.
Mr. Rosio,
6.
I have a wasp here.
Oh yeah?
You gotta add him to the book.
Dead or alive?
He's kicking a little. dead.
So random, you know.
Sorry, so that was 5610. 5620. And then a 6430. And the last group, 19, is the SSAs. That's the ones we did yesterday. Anybody remember the title of that?
It was like a weird word, like superfluous or monogamous or something.
Something like that.
Ambiguous.
Ambiguous. It's the ambiguous part. So we have a 7, we have a 5, and we have a 25, 50. And then I can safely set my book down and stroll back left. Question about the draw up there at all? So basically, you can do whatever you want in whatever order. Again, the only rule is don't use law of signs if you're trying to get
Size. Angle.
angles, unless you know that the angle
Or acute.
is acute. Other than that rule, you can do anything you want anytime. So, which one do you prefer? Sines or cosines? You prefer cosines?
Yeah.
That's surprising, because most people prefer the law of sines and the cross multiply. Can we do law of sines on this?
No.
No, because you have to have a pair where you know them both, and we don't have that. So we're gonna have to do law of cosines. 4 squared equals, 3 squared equals, or x squared equals?
X squared.
Squared equals. I'll call that x for now. X squared equals what?
16 plus 9.
Times 2 times 3 times 4. Cosine of 7140.
How are we gonna solve that for x? Do the root of everything. That was like the first lesson of this chapter, I think. We had a lot of homework problems like that. I'm gonna punch that in. It should give us, according to the answer paper, I'm hoping for a 4.177.
Would you have to change the minutes to a decimal? Or?
You will. Do you remember how we have done that in the past? Like the calculator will give you a set of parentheses there once you type the cosine button. And then what do we add in?
40 divided by 60.
And one other item,
Plus.
a plus. We go a plus there, 40 dividing 60. That's probably the best way to do that. .177, is that a win? So write that on there. Then we need to go get ourselves either of the angles. I would usually recommend law of sines when possible, but again, if we're getting angles, we have to make sure the angle we go after is
Acute.
acute. There can only be how many bad news angles per triangle that we can't get? One. We only have to worry about which one? Yeah, and how would we spot it? Whichever one is the
biggest side. The big, like
the
opposite
biggest.
the biggest side.
Yeah, whatever the biggest is. So the biggest side is the one we just got. We already have the angle for that. 71 is the biggest angle of this triangle. So is law of sines okay on one of the angles or both of them? Both. We've already eliminated our problem child. So get either one, the top or the left, doesn't matter. Pick one?
The top.
The top. So I'll call that y. I prefer to do my variable on the top. You don't have to do that, but I think it makes the math easier. So how's this going to go if I go after the y?
Sine y over 3.
It'll be sine y over 3. The word sine will always go with the one that's the
Angle.
angle. Over here we need another sine,
7140.
the 7140. Over. Yeah, for now we can even use that answer button instead of worrying about the 4.177 to solve for y.
The 3 goes up with sine.
3 goes up. Calculator forces us to do these parentheses, so we're doing what again here? plus, divide by 60. Punchity, punchity, punchity. I'm rooting for a 42.976. If that didn't work and you have to punch it again, you won't be able to use the answer key that time because the answer is no longer 4.177, it's the wrong answer, you just got it. If you get stuck with 4.177, so be it. Good news, bad news? Go.
I don't know if it's just me, but
You have to
I'm.
do an extra step at the end that I didn't say. What's the extra step?
Second sign.
Second sign. We'll have to do second sign at the end. Since we're getting an angle, we'll have to do second sign once we cross multiply.
There we go.
Is that okay?
That was what I needed.
All right. Same thing. And then the third angle is easy money. How are we going to get the third one?
So take the
180 minus. We could go 180 minus this one minus this one. Or if you want to do this plus this, get an answer, 180 minus that, however you want to do it. It's just adding, subtracting stuff with 180. We're rooting for a 65.357. About that. All the SASs will go that same way. It'll always be set up with a law of cosines first with x squared equals, do the root. Then you're going to have to get yourself an angle. There will always be one safe angle you could get with law of sines. Just don't get the biggest one. Figure out which one the biggest one is and don't touch that. Get one of the other angles with the law of sines, and then 180 stuff could get you the other one. Something there.
If we rounded to whole numbers, how much would we lose on an answer? A
Like
test?
half point every time.
Okay.
Yeah, I always go like two decimals at least. This paper, it looks like I always did 3, so just do 3 to match me, but on a test, I'll usually go 2. Something about the 1 to 6 club. So 7's an SSS triangle, means I gave you 3 sides. These would always follow the format we're about to follow. You'd first have to get yourself,
third side.
disagree?
Oh.
You're gonna have to get an angle. Does it really matter which one? No. But in the long run, which one might we be wise to take out of the way?
B,
Agree. Why?
because it's the biggest.
It's the biggest. So 9 is the biggest side. B is the biggest angle. We're not allowed to get this one with law of sines. So since that's the bad boy angle of the picture, let's just maybe take that one out to begin with. Find the biggest one, get that out of the way. So call it X. How would law of cosines go?
81 equals 64 plus 49 minus 2 times 8 times 7 cosine of x.
And that took a lot more algebra work to do that day when we were doing those. First move to try to get the x alone.
That's 64 and 40.
Yeah, a little cleanup, that's 113. We could, while I'm in cleanup mode, I think I'd take that on too while I'm at it.
-112.
It's a 112. Can you subtract those and get a 1?
Yeah.
No, because they're unlike terms. The 112 is multiplying, you have to hold that for later. Now I go ahead, subtract the 113. Then divide -112. 2 negatives make a positive. If you don't want to punch them both in, you can just drop them. And then since we're getting an angle, we're going to have to do an inverse. So we do inverse cosine of that fraction. I'm hoping to turn out a 73.398. And that took the biggest angle out of the way. Could we do another thing like this to get the other angle? Sure, but I think most of you prefer to go law of sines. If you don't prefer law of sines, you could go one of those again, there's no harm to that. Doesn't matter which angle you get, just pick one.
A.
So I'll call that y. I like my variable on top.
Sine 8.
So y goes over 8.
Sine 9 over, or would it be 9 over sine 73?
Sine 73.398 over 9.
It'll be sine of that answer we just got over 9. To solve for the y,
8 goes with the sine answer.
8 goes up, punch, 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 punch. You'll have to do second sine at the end because we're getting an angle, so we have to do an inverse. And I'll be hoping for a 58 and some Pittsburgh numbers, 412. And if you can get that, third angle is easy money, just subtract with 180, and we're hoping there for a 48, 190. Question about that?
So you do 8 sine answer and then you second sine.
Then divide by 9.
Divide by 9. Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. And if you're repunching it, you just lost the answer button ability if you hit enter. Now you'd have to repunch in instead of the answer button, you're stuck using the 73.398. Something 7.
You don't need that 0 at the 198.
No, I just threw it on there, so I always just had 3 decimal places. It doesn't really do anything for us. 13, what's your easiest item to go after first?
Third angle.
Third angle for sure. So if we go after this third angle, just doing some 180 work. Should be a 28.5. Don't bother by that. Does it matter which side we do? No, just pick one. Right or bottom,
Bottom.
call that x. Cosines or sines?
Sines.
Sines. X on top.
Sine 143.10.
Sine 143.10.
400 over sine 28.5.
You could use the answer button, but 28.5 is exactly 28.5, so we don't have to worry about rounding there in the same way. This has to go
To the right of the 400.
to the right of the 400. Punch it all in. Are we going to have to hit the second button this time?
No.
No, you're not getting what makes you do the second button.
If you're using the answer from, or the angle you got to the answer.
When do we have to hit the second button? If we're trying to find an angle. We're not trying to find an angle. We know all the angles, so there's no second buttons on this. 13, I'm hoping here for a 502.549. To get the other side then, how's that gonna happen?
To the wall sines again.
Both sides again. Call this y,
Sine 820.
sine 820.
And then you can just reuse that.
We can reuse all that stuff, so that's the one, we had a homework where we could do that second entry thing, bring the calculation back. All you have to do is change the 143.10 into an 820, and that should shoot you the answer pretty fast. It's 121.496. 17 is the next different one. That's the first of the SAAs. First thing to try to chase. Third angle. Chase down that third angle with 180 stuff. And I have a 59.16, so a 6 repeats. Anybody want a sec to punch in? Make sure you can punch in and get that. Does it matter which side we do?
No.
No, just pick one.
The left.
Left. So X goes with
Sine 59.16.
sine the 59.16, which is the answer shown on your screen. If you want to use the answer button, instead of, since the 6 repeats, for accuracy's sake, you'd have to just hit the 6 like a bunch of times. If you don't want to be bothered with that, just use the answer button if it's on your screen already. The other partnership,
6 over sine 56.20.
20. Algebra sends this,
Goes on the right of the 6.
right at 6, punch it in, second button, no second button,
No second.
no second button. 17, I'm hoping for 6.190. If I want to go get the y, it would be log,
Y over sine 64.30.
degree,
And then equals the same.
equals the same thing, so we can use that calculator sheet again. We're hoping for a 6.507. If you want a simple check that's not super accurate, what's a super check that's not the most accurate? Simple check that's not the most accurate check though. What could we look out for? To know that we're possibly right?
Two sides aren't added together.
That's a minor point. Just to make sure
The
we,
biggest side goes with the biggest angle.
the
the
biggest was
small side goes with the
biggest, so
small.
like 6.5 was biggest, that went with 64. 6 was littlest, went with 56. 6.19 is medium size, goes with 59. That gives us some degree of confidence. What was the super check that was super accurate? How could we do a super check?
Do the law of cosines.
Do law of sines. We could do this divided by sine of its angle. This divided by sine of its angle. This divided by sine of its angle. And you get 3 sort of random numbers if you did it wrong, but if you did it right, those 3 should
Equal the same thing.
equal the same thing, give or take, because a little bit of rounding was involved at some point in doing anything, but those 3 should basically agree if you want a super check. Something up through there. The last ones are a little crazy because I'm only doing one, but how many different options do these have and how they can play out from these SSAs? You might have one answer, you might have
No answer.
no answers, you might have
2 answers.
2 answers. You don't know until you get there, so just because this one goes that way, it doesn't mean the other ones go this way. What these will always tempt you into doing first is law of sines to get an angle. Because you have an opposite pair where you know them both, it's always tempting to do law of sines to get an angle. But you can only do that if the angle that you're getting is known to be the cube. If 7's across from 25, 5 has to be across from something
Smaller.
smaller. So,
Yes.
yes, we're good. We can go ahead and try to get this with law of sines. If that didn't work out, let's say this is like a 15. You can't do law of sines to get this. You'd have to do a law of cosines to get that. And that would involve running your program like you did yesterday, 1 to 8. You're into that sort of a style of a question. And if it gives you 2 answers, this triangle like clone itself. There's doubles now that you have to complete. You can see on the answer paper, 21 is gonna do that, because 21's answer fills 2 lines. 22 is gonna do that, because the answer fills 2 lines. Some of them have no answer. Like if this were, let's say this is 125, and this is a 15, this would have to be bigger than 125. Like that wouldn't be possible to do. There are some that go that way. Law of signs, x with, disagree?
Sine x over 5.
Sine x go to 5. Make sure the sign's with the angle.
Sine 2550 over 7.
Agree. This has to go
To the left of the sign.
left of the sign. Second sign, no second sign.
Second sign.
Yes, second sign, because we're getting
An
an
angle.
angle. Getting an angle, have to do an inverse. Calculator should give us 18,135. Once that works out, what's the next best thing to get?
Okay.
Other angle. So 180 stops to get the other angle. 136,032. Does anybody want me to wait before we get the side? Anybody still pushing buttons to make sure the button's pushed for you? Okay. How are we going to get the y?
Law of signs.
I would. Could you do law of cosines on a lot of the choices that we made where we did law of sine?
Yes.
You could. I just think law of sines is a little quicker hit. So y goes with
Sine 136.032.
sine 136,033, which I think at present is showing on our screen as the answer, so that can save us a little bit of repunch in time. Goes with,
7 over 20, sine 2550.
I'd go 7 and the 2550. 2550 were the original answers, so we know we can rely on that better. And then this stuff just goes
Left of 7.
up with the 7. Calculator says 11,153, we hope. That's it. That sort of recaps everything we did. It's just today's, instead of them telling you which law to use, they just throw you some pictures and say, do whatever you want with these. You can cut that.